I feel the need for speed. Well, at least I used to feel that way. Now that I'm 50, I try to keep it within reasonable speed limits. But nowadays, I'm just happy if I can reach 30 kph on my bicycle. But there was a time when I absolutely loved anything that went fast. Fast cars? I love them. Although, I never actually owned one. But still, even now when I see a beautiful Porsche or a Ferrari or even a Corvette, I gotta admit, I get a little excited. And back when I was a kid in the 1980s, there were these shows about cars. They were just fast cars, and there was no other plot than they would just chase each other around every episode. One of my favorites was Kit from the show Knight Rider. And there was also the General Lee from the Dukes of Hazzard. Although I have to admit that as a kid, I didn't exactly know what the flag on top of the car was meant to represent. I don't know if that'd fly on TV today. But my all-time favorite dream car always was and always will be the 1967 Ford Mustang Shelby GT 500, or better known as Eleanor from Gone in 60 Seconds. American muscle cars, baby. Loud, proud, and beautiful. But sadly for me, I'm a dad with 3 kids right now, so instead of a Mustang, I drive a compact Hyundai SUV. It gets the job done, so I can't complain too much. And speaking of speed, I found this little spot right in front of these train tracks. And check it out, here comes a train now. It's actually 2 of them. The one in the back is a regular subway, while the one in the front looks like a local high-speed commuter train. I took one of these recently to Seoul Station, and I was amazed how it got to top speeds of 175 kilometers. And then from Seoul Station, I hopped onto the KTX, Korea's world-famous high-speed train, and took it all the way down to Changwon, which is near Busan, for a wedding. That one hit 300 kilometers per hour, around 186 miles per hour, and it was basically flying on the ground. But anyway, all of this is to say that today, for this need for speed ride that I have, I'm heading toward Korea Aerospace University. I heard they have a pretty cool museum there, so let's go check it out. You know, just the thought of going to the Aerospace Museum brings back memories of what might be the greatest movie of my youth, Top Gun. The year was 1987. Although the movie came out in 1986, back then in Korea the movies were released a little bit later. We had moved back to Korea a couple of years earlier, and honestly, I really missed America a lot. There was no internet back then, so my only real exposure to American culture was through AFKN. It was the American military network you could pick up on Korean TV and radio. Korea wasn't as trendy and fashionable back then as it is today. It was still pretty dark and drab, but I still wanted to be cool, like the other kids I saw on AFKN TV. I wanted Bugle Boy pants and a Lacoste t-shirt, and I wanted an Oakland Raiders hat and Air Jordans. But most of all, I wanted to be Maverick. I wanted to be that cool guy in the leather jacket, aviator sunglasses, jeans, and a white t-shirt. I even dreamed of riding Kawasaki motorcycles and flying an F-14 Tomcat. But today, I fly around in my Madison gravel bike. But still, as a kid, it's good to dream, right? But the truth is, Korea in 1987 was a very different place. It was a time of protests and lots of political turmoil, people fighting for democracy against a military dictatorship. I was very far from America and even further from any Top Gun dreams. Alright, so here we are at the Korea Aerospace University. Let's see what dreams we can find here. Looking at all these old planes, I guess I still wish I could have ended up being a pilot somehow. But I'm also reminded of a friend, a good friend of mine from back then, a friend named Tim Park. Tim was the son of a US military chaplain. And so when our dads met and they became friends, we ended up becoming friends as well. Now, Tim was cool. I mean, to me, Tim was the coolest kid I knew. I mean, he was the only American friend that I knew. I liked the way he looked. I liked the way he dressed. I liked everything about him. And he also showed me where I could buy all these knockoff American style shoes and clothes from right outside the US military base. He was the one who introduced me to mousse so I could style my hair just like Tom Cruise, although back then my middle school hair was so short I kind of looked like a monkey. And Tim was the one who introduced me to heavy metal music, although he got into huge trouble one day when his mom found out that he was listening to Motley Crue on his Sony Walkman. For a brief season of my life, Tim was my connection back to America. But not only that, he was my best friend. But as all military families eventually have to do, his family moved away. And the sad thing is, we weren't able to stay in touch. Over the years, I've tried to look for him on social media, but finding a Tim Park is almost as hard as finding a John Smith. But times have changed now. It's not so hard to find American culture in Korea anymore. And in fact, now that the world has become a lot more global, America and actually the rest of the world want to have a little bit more taste of Korean culture now. But there's still one thing about America that I just can't seem to get enough of. And what's that, you may ask? Well, it's a pretty darn delicious, good hamburger. So I heard the burgers at this place, which is kind of in the middle of nowhere, is pretty amazing. Now I ordered the basic barred burger, which is 3 juicy patties, 2 crisp pieces of bacon, some American cheese on toasted bun. And my wife got this really big chicken sandwich. Alright, I gotta admit, those burgers were really sloppy, but it was so juicy and it was so good. When I look back in that time in my life, I'm so thankful for Tim. He was only in my life for 1 year, but it meant the world to me. Sometimes we think friendships are supposed to last forever, but sometimes they're not. Each of us are placed where we are right now for a reason. Now, it may be for a lifetime or maybe it's just for a season. But while we're there, we're meant to be there. So let's make those moments matter. And when you do, that's how you can be a top gun in your own life. The need for speed, baby. The need for speed. So if you like this video and the message therein, then please like and subscribe. It really helps me out a lot and it's a huge encouragement to me. So until next time, ride safely and shoot for the stars. Shoot for the stars? Where did that come from? Gosh, that's cheesy. So 1980s. Alright, see you guys next time.